Okay, let's dive into this. The global system myth. Why geography doesn't dictate tech success. Have you ever been handed a massive project that just, well, feels geographically impossible? Imagine being tasked with rolling out a complex mission-critical financial system in Tokyo. But here's the catch. The entire team that built it, the folks who actually know the ins and outs of how it works, are sitting halfway across the world in London. Sounds like a recipe for absolute disaster, right? Well, today we're going to break down why the idea that geography dictates tech success is actually a complete myth. We'll look at the brilliant, structured mechanics that make global collaboration possible.
Wait, are we really going to run a system in Japan that was developed by a team that isn't even in Japan? You can practically feel the panic in those words. Lean into that skepticism for a second, because honestly, it's so incredibly relatable. It is universally terrifying to drop a London-built system into the Japanese market. We're talking different languages, totally different time zones, entirely different business cultures. It feels like you're setting yourself up to fail before you even get off the starting line.
But to really grasp the magnitude of this challenge, we have to set the scene. This project didn't just happen yesterday. This took place in what we'll call the pre-video chat era. Yep, there was no Zoom, no Microsoft Teams, no ubiquitous enterprise chat apps pinging you instantly with answers. Actually, online meetings were incredibly rare, if they even happened at all. Imagine trying to solve a complex coding error, or clarify a really dense financial specification when you can't just hop on a quick screen share. Global collaboration under these conditions, it felt like trying to climb an insurmountable mountain.
Now, what's really interesting about this next point, and honestly the most shocking part of this entire setup, comes down to a single number, 2. Out of an entire massive financial organization, there were exactly 2 representatives in Japan handling the entire inquiry pipeline for this new system. Literally 2 people acting as the sole bridge between confused end users in Tokyo and the developers over in London. Just picture the sheer volume of questions. What are the specs for this function? Why is this error popping up? Under what exact conditions does this data process? All of that chaos funneled through just 2 individuals.
Crazy, right?
So how in the world did they not completely collapse under all that pressure? Well, they built a beautifully simple, highly manual human chain. Let's walk through it. Step 1, the user asks the Japanese rep a question. Step 2, the rep filters it. They answer whatever they can locally, just to save time. If they don't know it, step 3, the question gets sent over to London, and they wait for the answer to come back. And finally, step 4, the rep translates and contextualizes that answer for the original user. It is absolutely mind-blowing when you think about it. A massive global financial rollout was essentially powered by a manual, step-by-step game of telephone. But you know what? It actually worked.
Of course, they weren't completely crazy. They knew there were limits to this system. When email just wasn't enough, they relied on strategic, physical visits. At critical milestones of the project, the London team actually flew all the way to Japan. They had to confirm core specifications face-to-face, discuss really complex issues while physically pointing at the same screen together, and, crucially, the London team had to learn the daily reality of local Japanese business operations. The genius here was the division of labor. The Japanese side handled local needs, and they only pulled the ripcord to bring London into the mix when it was strictly necessary.
So the crucial point is this. Global development is about how you connect, not where you are. The physical distance was never the actual enemy. The workflow was literally the only thing that mattered. And hey, quick side note, if you're finding this breakdown helpful and you love learning how complex business problems are solved through structured thinking, please take a quick second right now to like this explainer and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out, and it ensures you won't miss out on our next explainer.
Okay, let's stick with that idea for a moment, because it's the core of everything we're exploring today. Distance is not the barrier, mechanics are. Their success didn't require some kind of technological magic. It just required designing highly localized mechanisms for managing inquiries, sharing knowledge, and clearly allocating roles. Once they built that reliable machine on the Japanese side to safely interface with the headquarters, poof, the geographic distance between London and Tokyo basically vanished as an obstacle.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate shift in mindset that needs to happen in any global project. If your goal is just transplanting an overseas product, well, you're essentially playing defense. You're just trying not to break things. But if your goal is creating new business in Japan, you are playing offense. System implementation shouldn't just be about plugging in a foreign piece of software. It should be about connecting global knowledge to your local front lines to generate entirely new value. That is exactly how you turn a logistical nightmare into a massive competitive advantage.
Let's bring this all back to today. Look at our toolkit. We have instant online meetings, persistent enterprise chat, real-time cloud platforms, seamless AI integration.
The world is so much smaller and closer than it was when those two brave reps in Japan were manually filtering emails. If they could succeed back then with slow, manual pipelines, just think about what we can achieve today. We are totally out of excuses. Saying, oh, it's difficult because the development team is overseas simply doesn't fly anymore.
Which leads us to our final question, and the thought I really want to leave you with today. How will you connect people, systems, and knowledge tomorrow? It's not about the software, and it is certainly not about the geography. It's about the mechanics, the systems you build to bridge the gap. So take a hard look at your own business operations, rethink your own bottlenecks, and take that first step tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next explainer.